Hi, this is Chuck Hyde, Vistage Chair here in Northwest Arkansas, and we're continuing our series with our Vistage speakers and experts on different topics that are kind of helping us, process where we are today in our environment. And today I'm really pleased to welcome Steven Snyder. Steven, good afternoon. I guess good afternoon here. Good morning in Maui, where you are.
Yeah, it's 9 in the morning here, and a beautiful day outside.
Well, I think if you're going to get quarantined somewhere, Maui's probably a pretty good place. So
Hard to beat. You're right.
yeah,
It's a wonderful place.
Well, Steven, one of the things that we've shared from the outset is that this is about how we lead in these times. We've covered a lot of organizational topics. We're also talking about how we take care of ourselves as people and some of the things that we can learn and be more effective in our roles and the people that we're trying to take care of. Steven, you were with us back in January of 2018. You were the first speaker after I launched my CEO group right out of the gate.
Oh, wow.
And so I remember that time well. And I will say this, Steven, you're among you're one of the most brilliant people I've met in my Vistage journey. And that's not just intellect. I mean, your intellect is way up there, but I would say it's in a broader sense of the word in terms of passion, energy, and focus. And I know focus has been something that you've really not only studied, but promoted. And I really want to get into some of that today. For those that don't know you, Steven, I'll just give you a bit of a background. He is known for practical take-home skills, and I think this development of alpha learning, the product of more than 40 years of research that you've put into this, and really understanding not the brain, and we've talked about this, not just 3 pounds of matter, but the mind and the possibilities when we understand the mind. And so when we think about different skills around attention, hypnosis, meditation, visualization, brilliance, passion, and the nature of mastery, these are all things you've studied and have shared with Vistage members for a long, long time. And so I really want to get into that. Again, some interesting things about you that I think I found just staggering is that you learned to read by the age of 2. And by the time you had begun school, you'd read over 1,400 books. And give us the number. I know it's like in the 100,000 range. What are the number of books that you've kind of kept track and read at this point in your life?
Well, you're pretty close. It's around 93,000 right now.
Okay.
Moving toward $100,000 a book, right? I read about 10 to 20 books a week, sometimes 30. It depends on. I've got a lot of time lately, so I'm reading a little bit more.
We'll increase the slope of that line a little bit, maybe during this quarantine period. So, but no, and you're also the author of several books, most recently Focused Passion, something you talked to our Vistage groups about. So again, thank you. We talked a little bit off camera, just maybe for our people who are watching this, give us just a quick update, how you're doing and really how this COVID-19 crisis really, and things we've been living through in the last little bit here, how they've affected you personally.
Well, I'm really blessed. I live in a beautiful place. We have a 70-acre tropical fruit farm on the cliff of the edge of Maui, and my wife and I live here alone, basically. So we're used to being sort of secluded. There are no neighbors anywhere nearby. So it's been easier for us, and we're financially okay. So it's been easier for us than most people. So my life here, which really makes up generally about 3/4 of my life, has been pretty much the same and pretty well. We handle it pretty well. The hard part for me is that I'm missing my work. I usually spend about 5 or 6 days a month going over to the mainland and doing Vistage talks or corporate presentations. And, I can't do that now. And that's really, there's a big hole in my heart. I love being in front of an audience. I love the fact that I'm making a difference in people's lives. I'm helping them with tools and techniques that are really valuable in terms of their running their businesses and running their marriages and their parenting skills. And there's overall just helping people be better people. It's a wonderful feeling, and I'm really missing that a lot. So I'm looking forward to the day. I don't know how soon it'll be when I can get on an airplane and take a deep breath and feel safe, And when that happens, I'll be fully blessed again.
There you go. Well, I tell you, one of the characteristics that we look for in our Vistage members are those that are net givers. And I know that you embody that and exemplify that in a lot of ways. And so I know that what that means to have that hole right now is a big deal for you. And so I hope that we'll be able to get you back out there in front of people and live and in person. But for now, again, making time today is a huge deal. So thank you for that. I want to start with, the mind as it relates to the times that we're in, Steven, specifically about fear. You told us that thoughts can be right and wrong. Feelings just are. Talk about that and what many of us have been experiencing, in the outset of the crisis and kind of where we've been over these last few weeks and maybe the uncertainty that lies ahead.
Yeah, thoughts basically break down into positive and negative. I mean, there's neutral thoughts, certainly, like that's a tree is a neutral thought. That's an ugly tree is a negative thought. That's a beautiful tree is a, but there's all kinds of thoughts. But those are like opinions, I mean, there's no fact about that. And what happens is because there's two basic programs in the mind, survive and grow, survive and improve. Negative thoughts are about survival. Negative thoughts are about making sure we don't die. Positive thoughts are about getting better, improving, growing in certain areas of our lives. So the thing is that because survival is so much more powerful than self-improvement, negative thoughts are really sticky. They're like Velcro, and positive thoughts are pretty slippery. They're like Teflon. So one negative thought is much more powerful than one positive thought. It takes a whole bunch of positive thoughts to equal the power of a negative thought. So in times of crisis, in times of where survival is not just a theory, it's an actual issue in all of our lives right now, our negative thoughts tend to really dominate. We have all these negative thoughts that come up. But remember, thoughts can be right and or wrong. So when we think like a negative thought, like, oh my God, I'm going to get this horrible, horrible COVID, we don't know that's true. We don't know it's not true, but we don't know that it's true. So we have the option of accepting that thought and creating fear, which causes us to hold our breath, tighten our muscles. It causes tension in the body, anxiety in the gut, and confusion in the brain. Or we have the option of responding to that thought, not reacting, but responding to that thought in a positive way by taking a deep breath. Because when we do that, our brain knows we're safe. When we hold our breath, our brain feels in danger. When we take a deep breath, our brain feels safe. So we take the deep breath, and then we have the thought, well, I don't know what the future is going to hold, but I'm going to imagine that I'm going to be safe from this. Because it's just as likely or maybe even more likely that I'll be safe from this than I'll be endangered by this. So we have a chance to take a look at our thoughts, which cause our feelings. Thoughts cause feelings, feelings cause thoughts. So we have a chance to abate the fear and create a sense of feeling safe instead by monitoring our thoughts and saying yes to the good ones and taking a deep breath and releasing the bad ones.
Okay.
That's a really powerful skill. And it takes mindfulness. It takes paying attention to our thoughts to be able to do that.
And that's why I think, mindfulness can be misunderstood, but to truly be paying attention to our thoughts in terms of that's to me, a layperson's way of thinking about this. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. And that's huge because it's not our autopilot. It's not naturally what we do. It has to be done purposefully, consciously. Generally we just think and we think the same thoughts we've been thinking and all that stuff goes on and just sort of, we're not paying much attention to that. It happens 24/7, even when we're dreaming, but we have the ability at any given moment to stop and pay attention to those thoughts. And so if we make a point right now, especially in these times, make a point of listening to our thoughts and monitoring for those negative ones so we can take a deep breath and release the fear and not get overwhelmed by it.
Yeah. So I was in a conversation yesterday with a business leader. Is a thought that comes to mind here is that, and he was talking about the competition in the particular industry that he's in and how so many panicked, and and he's probably going to benefit from that because others in the industry panicked and he didn't. But the one of the things that he and I think that's sort of that brain, that seizing dynamic that you're describing causes us and creates that confusion. But one of the things he said, I wonder where I'd be, and I'm going to be coming out pretty good, I think, but I wonder where I'd be if I thought about it. My approach was, how can I come out ahead in this, as we emerge from COVID-19 and all it's bringing us. And so it sounds like that's a pretty interesting little case study of what you're describing.
Yeah, because the more stressed we get, the more our brain moves into what's called the either or mentality. Everything's black or white, right or wrong, good or bad, friend or foe, slam on the brakes or turn the wheel.
Okay.
So when we feel less stressed, when we feel safer, we can move into creative thinking, the rainbow of options in between the black and the white. And when you ask a question like, how can I make things better, or how can I proceed in a positive way from here? You open up the possibilities of not one right answer. There's possibly hundreds of right answers, and that opens up that creative thinking. And that's where the big advantage comes, because most people today in their panic mode are thinking die or live. They're not thinking like, what can I do to make it, improve? What can I do to make things better? How can I use this opportunity in a positive way?
Well, Steven, that may be a good segue then to where next thing I wanted to kind of talk to you about was, because you told us that the purpose of a goal is to know the direction of the next step. And that the bigger the goal is, it creates enough motivation to take that step. So
Right.
Maybe comment on that idea for business leaders in the context of where we find ourselves today. So we are where we are. What's the goal? What's that motivation for taking that step in the direction of that goal?
Well, big giant goals are really important. Of course, this side of impossible. The brain will not move toward the impossible. It will, however, work its tail off for the highly unlikely. So it doesn't have to be probable. It has to be even just remotely possible. So that's where we want the goal to be, a stretch goal, like the biggest possible outcome, okay? But in a business setting especially, you have to reward progress. You can't just say, when we achieve this, then good things will happen. We have to see that the movement toward achieving it is valuable. Like if the goal is $1 million, then 100,000 gets some kind of a reward, and 250 gets some kind of, so we see that we get rewarded in the progress toward the goal. So what we want to do is we want to look at this opportunity we have here. Crisis is an opportunity that a lot of our competitors are going to go out of business. A lot of people are going to be buying in different ways. They're going to be looking at things in different ways. A lot of employers are going to be handling their employees in totally unique fashion. It's all up in the air. It's time for dramatic change. So here's an opportunity to look at your business in a brand new way from a different perspective and think, what can it become? Now that I have this huge opportunity, what can I create? What's the pushing the boundaries here? What's possible? What's even remotely possible that I can at least set my sights toward? And then once I have that in mind, I can see the steps I need to take. And that's the really beauty of having the big goal, because it gives you a roadmap. Like if I'm going to get there, then the next thing I have to do is go from here to there. This baby step first. And without a goal, you're like looking at 360 degrees of possibilities. You don't know which way to go. But with a goal, it becomes much more clear what the next step is. It's a step in the direction of that goal. It almost doesn't matter if you actually get there or not. It matters that you go there, because the journey toward what you want the most is the most exciting journey you can take. So if you set out, for example, to become the best business of its kind in the world, you might not get there, but you will get closer to there than you would have if you didn't set a goal like that, a lofty goal like that. So the two purposes of the goal, number one is to give you a direction to take your next steps. But two, as you mentioned, is to motivate yourself to take the step. And the bigger the goal, this side of impossible, the more exciting the outcome, the more motivation there is to take those steps.
So it occurs to me now then, as I'm listening to you, Steven, if we take these two questions about fear and the feelings and things like that, and then this idea of goal, that as individuals, we can certainly process that. But now if I were to merge those two ideas from a leadership standpoint, these are, Vistage members are leading their companies, their presidents, or CEOs, or business owners, or key executives within. So they've got to get there, but they also have to get their people there, right? So as leaders, what are some of the things that we need to be thinking about to help everyone else take that deep breath, everyone else to see the clarity of that goal, to get everyone else motivated to take that step toward that when they may be feeling lots of different things, or just confused by the complexity and all the unknowns, because but they may have it. what's the leadership component if we're trying to compel our people to move in that direction?
Well, you just pointed out the big difference between success and failure for a business.
Okay.
If a leader cannot motivate its people, then they fail. If they can motivate them, then they succeed. But the problem is, or the opportunity is, you can't motivate everybody the same way. People are not the same. They're very different. One person is motivated by money, and one person is motivated by getting the employee of the month parking spot. What we have to do is understand the people that we are working with. So for a CEO, maybe it's understanding their direct reports and helping their direct reports understand the people that report to them.
Okay.
But each individual has to be motivated in a different way. There is one core piece, though, and that is we have to all believe in the mission. The mission of the company has to be very clear, very purposeful, very direct, very easily understood, and every single person has to buy into that mission. If they don't, they're a cancer. Literally, they can really disrupt the whole process. So we have to hire very carefully, but we have to fire when people are not there, when they're not in line with us on the mission. How we achieve that mission and what motivates us to do what we need to do to achieve that mission, that varies. But the fact is, the CEO, the owner, has to decide this is the mission of the company, and every single person that works in that company has to fervently believe in that mission. So that's where I start in motivating people is getting clear on the mission and getting excited about accomplishing that mission.
And so that's like the concept of start with why, correct? I mean, is that right in the way you're thinking about?
That's right. And also, as Stephen Covey says, start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
So, why are we doing this, and what is it exactly that we're doing? Like, if we accomplish this mission, how's the world a better place? How are our lives improved? What's accomplished by accomplishing this goal?
Well, I literally just sat on a webinar, and you may know Kathleen Quinn Botas. She's a Vistage member and on the speakers circuit as well in the HR space. And one of the things that she said in this, I'm paraphrasing, but she said basically if people don't feel like they fit, they will quit. And it was kind of a cultural, missional kind of thing. And the thought I had, the corollary was like, if people don't fit, you probably want them to quit, right? If they can't get behind that mission as a leader, like there's a different bus they can go be successful on. But I mean, and it sounds maybe cold, but I think you need people that buy into that. And if they're not, they'll either opt out or maybe they need help with that. But is that fair?
Make them available to industry. Yeah, that's really, really important, because the truth is, some people, maybe even a lot of people, are working for the paycheck, and they don't really love the job. They don't really love the company. They don't really believe in the mission. They're afraid of not being able to pay the rent. They're afraid of not being able to put food on the table. So they stick with a job they don't like, that they don't believe in. And those people would do far better at a job they do believe in. They'd make more money. They'd be more successful. So I think it's a huge, huge gift to people to fire them when they're not fitting, when the job isn't right for them. That when somebody is a bad salesperson, it's simply because they're a bad salesperson. They aren't selling, isn't their thing. So you fire them and they go find a job in HR or something like that. They're happy as a clam. So it's a good thing to fire people that don't fit. It's a good thing to move them toward quitting or whatever when they aren't part of the solution. Because the old saying, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And in this case, that's so very true. If somebody isn't loving the job, then that rubs off on the people around them. That's not a healthy place to be.
Yeah, and so maybe to bring this full circle, if the leader's not creating that kind of clarity around mission and purpose and the why and the end, the goal, the end in mind, it's going to be really easy for people to hang on for maybe the wrong reasons in that way.
That's right, and that's the leader's responsibility. And if the leader isn't doing that well, he can't expect, or she can't expect, anybody else to follow along.
Sure. Well, it sounds like, again, it's one of the things that I've noticed in these whole conversations that we've been having, Steven, is that what was true before global pandemic is still true in global pandemic. It's
Sure.
just, it's maybe things are accentuated, or maybe they're spotlighted in different ways, or even accelerated, but those things are still true. And this is one of those, sounds like.
Those things are true. But circumstances have changed, and there's a lot of people out there out of work. There's a huge pool of people now to choose from to bring somebody in to replace somebody that doesn't fit. You know, it used to be the unemployment rate was 3.5. Now it's 15. You know, I mean, there's millions of people now who are available to take that job that the person who didn't really love their job can leave, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a greater opportunity in some ways than it's ever been. We've
Okay.
never had a situation where the workforce, the potential workforce, is so huge.
Yeah. Well, Steven, you know the Vistage community as well as anyone. You've spoken to Vistage groups all over. You know the profile of the Vistage member. In closing, you know, is there one or two nuggets that you just really highlight in terms of, hey, keep this top of mind. If you're not thinking about it, start thinking about it. What's a parting word or two on that?
Wow. You have a whole lot of people who are frightened. And when they come back to work, they're still going to be frightened. So the leader has to set the example. I mean, the obvious things like when appropriate, wear the masks and wash the hands and keep the social, or I think better word, physical distancing, all that stuff. But more important than that, I think what the leader has to do is show the individuals that work for them that this company is solvent, that it's not going to go out of business. They don't have to fear losing their job, that their job is safe, their job is solid, and that, you know, they're going to get their paychecks and they're going to be able to feed their families. You know, you take it for granted that people think that, and maybe they often do in other times, but
Right.
today they aren't sure of that. They aren't feeling safe and secure. So I think the most important thing any leader can do is to bring that feeling of safety, of security, of we have a future together to every individual that works there, and the sense that they can take a deep breath and do their jobs to the best of their abilities, knowing that they're going to be hired not just for today, but in days to come.
So projecting confidence, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a marketer I worked with years ago at Kimberly-Clark, and one of the things I loved that he taught me was, what's the reason to believe? You know, from a marketing standpoint. But like, I think as leaders, then I want to hear you say, help people have those reasons to believe that things are going to be safe and okay. Take that breath. Let's go. Here's where we're going. And if the leadership
And
do
the
that,
leader's the only person who can do that.
yeah, totally. Well, Steven, I can't thank you enough. It's good to see you. It's been what, 2.5 years almost since you were with us. But again, you made an indelible mark when you were here. Again, what the complexity of our minds and how they work, and what you've taught us about that. Just really, really great stuff. So keep up the good work. Can't wait till you get back out on the circuit doing that good work. In the meantime, if anybody wanted to learn more about anything that from you, or where might you point people?
Well, the book Focused Passion you mentioned is a great synopsis of the kind of work that I do. That's available on Amazon. Or I have I think it's the nation's largest website of free self-improvement programs. Over 250 programs on every self-improvement topic I could think of. It's at www.pen.tools, pen.tools, pen.tools, and you can stream it or download it and listen to these. They're conversations between my radio partner and myself about all these self-improvement topics. And they always end with a guided imagery, an alpha exercise where you close your eyes and you go inside your mind and you program your mind to create the kind of change you want to change. So Focused Passion or pen.tools are the two best ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome.
Get a hold of my information.
All right. Well, Steven, one of the things that I appreciate when we correspond and you send me an email, you always end it with much aloha. So I'll give you that greeting as we close, and just wish you nothing but the best. Thanks again for your time today.
Much aloha.
Have a great one. Talk to you soon. Bye.